Hey everybody, welcome to the GroundedTV Podcast 2.0. We're calling it because we tried this before, then we stopped doing it a long time ago, but we're back. I'm one of your hosts, Justice.
I'm Saul.
And I tend to be a little more conservative, I guess you could say. The whole idea of this, we're brothers, and I'm conservative, he's liberal, and we're going to be arguing about a lot of upcoming issues in Canada's political landscape, especially with the upcoming election, where it's going to be Carney versus Poilievre. Who knows who's going to win? We, it's actually kind of crazy because I'm pretty excited for it, not going to lie.
It's surprising how up in the air it has become. Because I think for a while, everybody was kind of convinced it was going to go one way and there was nothing we could do about it.
Well, Poilievre had like a 30-point lead, and now it's basically neck and neck. And I think that honestly makes it more interesting, right? It's going to make the victory
for sure
that much more of kind of cool, in my opinion. Hopefully we don't end up with a minority government again, because that, is always great for progress in this country. But at the end of the day, I think it's nice to see everybody excited for this election. I think that's kind of what really gets me excited for it, is seeing everybody who doesn't matter who they're voting for, they're looking forward to this. They all want change. They're all ready for the new era to begin and to put the Trudeau era behind us. Well, the second Trudeau era behind us, I guess.
Even the Liberals, I guess. Yeah,
everybody. Even his old cabinet, apparently. But
move on to the next chapter.
Well, and that's kind of my issue with Mark Carney. I don't mind Mark Carney's rhetoric and something. A lot of the things he's saying are similar to what Poilievre says at times. Not going to lie. The way he's handling journalists now, kind of similar. And if you haven't seen that clip, watch this.
You have not been elected in a federal election yet, and you recently flew to Europe on government wide-body jet at the expense of at least $500,000. So the question I have for you today, and maybe I'll say this before I ask the question, these people around you all paid for that flight, and you've not been elected yet. So will you commit to refunding these taxpayers for that flight?
Well, it's an interesting question, way of framing it. Look, and that creates a whole new set of opportunities for Albertans as a whole, for people across the country, for these hardworking people around me and those like them in the trades. And that's what my job is.
I'll take that as a no then.
No, you'll take that as a very comprehensive answer to your question.
But anyways, as you can kind of see there, he takes a firm stance and just shuts down that reporter with that. It's honestly kind of a stupid question. Like, are you going to reimburse the Canadian taxpayers for your trip to Europe because you're not elected yet? It's just like such a stupid question. He's still prime minister, buddy. Like, he can still do this stuff. Like, stop crying about it. This is what bothers me about conservatives right now. Like, as a conservative, is they're whining about the stupidest shit, and they're kind of just ruining the argument. You know what I mean? Like, why don't we stick to how it actually matters, not about him taking
We're getting the election.
You know what I mean? Like,
been asking for an election for the last 2 years. We're finally getting it. And we've also been asking for Trudeau to step down, right? And what did we think was going to happen when that happened? We thought maybe Chrystia Freeland, right? But I mean, honestly, is Mark that much worse than Chrystia Freeland would have been? Like, are you really that upset about that specifically?
I don't know why I thought he'd call an election, but it was actually my father-in-law that warned me about this a while ago, saying that even if he does resign, it's not going to go that smooth, because he talked about when Pierre did it, right? Pierre Trudeau, because he did it the same way. He did the exact same thing. It was he prorogued for 3 months, dragged it out, and that's when John Turner ended up becoming interim prime minister for 76 days. He's, I think, one of the shortest serving prime ministers to date. But Mark Carney might take the cake for that one if he loses this election.
It's funny because Poilievre has been the underdog for quite a while now, and now Carney's kind of the underdog in this race. I don't know how we've ended up in a situation where like this globalist international banker is now the underdog in a political campaign, but I guess this is where we are.
The thing is, the whole idea about people being like anti-globalist, I think for a while that had a kind of a different meaning. I think with the WHO and the UN throughout, the events of 2020, people started to be like, oh, there's like other entities that can tell our country what to do. And I think that's what kind of brought the alarm there. Everyone's like, oh, this is a globalist thing now. And that's what people are against. They're not against, countries working together and everyone getting along. But what they're against is, having somebody else who's not even in their government in another just an administration that's privately funded, arguably a majority by Bill Gates and the German and American governments. The whole thing, what I was trying to say about the globalist stuff is I think it's a silly argument in the first place. I think at the end of the day, the tone's kind of changed. And now everybody, since Trump's taken his recent stance, I think everyone's just more concerned about what are we doing moving forward as a country now, because before we used to think, oh, we'll just keep trading with America, doing what we're doing, and everything's going to go great. And now we have this huge wrench thrown into that, and we're basically just kind of sitting here like, okay, we got to figure out what we're going to do now, right? And if we can't trust our closest ally to the south for now, what are we going to do in the future, right? And I think that's something that should be talked about, or at least some kind of solution, right? Because we're at a really major fork in the road as a country here.
I think that globalism is a very ill-defined concept. So it's easy for people to kind of just think of things that they don't like. Things like getting involved in global conflicts, they don't like it. Things like messing with other people's elections. Things like the stuff that happened during the Cold War in the 60s. And that's when a lot of people's conceptions of American interventionism and all the negative things that are surrounding that, they come out of the 60s and the 70s, right? With all the Cold War stuff, like the Vietnam War and the Korean War and the Cuban Missile Crisis. All this stuff was like sort of a result of America being too involved in places overseas. And there was a reason for that, and there was a lot of support for that at the time. But people kind of can attribute that to globalism, or they can call things like the WHO or the WEF or the UN or the EU or NATO or anything like that. They can call these like globalist entities that are trying to like control the government. But NATO, they were responding to an Article 5 thing. Like they were, it was an act of war against America. All the countries showed up to support America in their fighting back on that, right? So that's a form of globalism that was to our benefit, right? Or at least to America's benefit. Whether or not you agree with those conflicts in concept, it's still, at the end of the day, they were the result of our allies backing us up, was what happened, right? Like we had something terrible happen. Allies came, like Canada showed up for America. We fought together with America through multiple world wars, multiple global conflicts.
And I think Trump personally is just going like dementia or something at this point. No, I was just saying, why do you want to vote for Mark Carney?
I want to vote for Mark Carney because I trust him with our economy. I trust him to understand how trade relationships work, how global relationships work between countries. Somebody who understands the importance of networking and strong ties to other nations, and how that can be a strategic vantage point for you. And somebody who is going to fight back against kind of this populist, anti-institutionalist crap that, I'm really not a fan of. Even with Poilievre, I see enough there that I'm not concerned a lot about him winning, but I definitely would prefer Carney just because I think that he's going to take the country in the direction that I want to go in. I don't think that Poilievre, I think he can push back enough on the Trump stuff to not let it get super out of control, but I don't think that he's necessarily fighting in the opposite direction. He's maybe going in like an adjacent direction. He's like, whoa, I don't want to go way over there. I want to go this way, like trying to push it a little bit back onto the main, like the actual road that's been trodden on before, like instead of going on to some way off beaten path that we have no idea what's going to happen. What's your position on, like, why do you want to vote for Poilievre?
Well, first off, I just want to ask you a few more questions before I answer mine, just about that. So this is something I have a concern with Mark Carney over, which is, what about the cabinet? What about all the same ministers that served under Trudeau and repeated? Like, don't you think that they'll kind of repeat the same mistakes?
No, I don't think that the cabinet ministers actually had a lot of power. Trudeau's cabinet. I think Trudeau is unilaterally running that party. He was deciding policy directions. He was taking things a lot further than I think more of the people who are more in tune with the public would have wanted to take it. Even things like adding capital gains taxes and doing a GST cut for 3 months before Christmas, and just stupid things that people don't even really ask for or need right now. And he's prioritizing it because I think he has an instinct in a certain direction, and he's so used to being able to ride his instincts as like a guiding light for where to go politically. He's just doesn't listen to anybody, and I think that he should have listened to the people around him, because the impression I get is that maybe not all those ministers. I'm sure there's some of them that back him up endlessly. There's always going to be people like that, but I think there definitely was some of them pushing back. We know at some level, Krista Freeland was pushing back internally, not externally. We didn't really see it until he severed that relationship. But you have to remember the power balance there, and that nobody's doing themselves any favors in politics by burning a bridge with the leader of their own party, right? They're always going to try and maintain that relationship and try to make it good, not push back too hard so that he doesn't even want to work with them.
Okay. No, that's a good answer, I guess. Like that to me is one thing I can't get past with the Liberal administration in Carney. However, I think you were asked, why would I want to vote for Poilievre is what you were saying earlier, as well. And just to kind of answer the same thing I asked you. For me, I think it comes down to really just the Liberal record, I think, is the biggest problem for me right now. It's hard to look past that because I can see where you're coming from, but the fact that these individuals didn't do more to serve the Canadian people over their party, that's where I kind of have a problem. That's kind of where they lose me. And that's kind of where, I really, when it comes down to Pierre Poilievre, like, I don't think he's this MAGA, this pro-Trump candidate at all. Like, he's taken a firm stance on Ukraine. He's been wearing a Ukraine ribbon ever since 2022. He's literally been taking these stances silently for a long time. For those who are actually paying attention, you would have seen it. However, for those who aren't, it's not until recently has he made designated press conferences just to go over these points, right? And I think the problem is for so long, the whole campaign trail was just geared up to getting Trudeau to power and pressuring for an election that they've lost track of what they actually have to do in a real campaign now. However, I still think that doesn't quite put them at a disadvantage with Carney, because Carney is also at a disadvantage. So I think, if anything, at worst case scenario, we got a level playing field here. To show who Maxime Bernier is sitting down with here, this guy is like absolutely nuts. Like
this never runs out of bullets if there's a zombie apocalypse or an attempted communist takeover and you're defending your family. But
what the hell was that, dude? He looks like he was Tuco and he was going to take some blue stuff off the edge of the knife there. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, wait, look at this knife. Communist takeover. It's got a skull crusher on there. I'm like, holy crap, it does actually have a skull. He's literally got brass knuckles, skull crusher, and a knife, like a 9-inch blade, all on one knife. Like, trying to sell it to people. Like what? Like, this is something that your audience, I guess, loves. But yeah, for those just listening, that's what he was waving around.
It's hard for me to know how much of what he does is serious and how much of it is just like performative, because I know at least part of it is. And I've heard too, like I saw a thing where Destiny was saying as well. He was saying that as soon as the show ended, he got serious and he like wasn't in character anymore. And he was like, oh yeah, that was really good. I liked what you said there. And he was like, dude, like, what do you mean? Like, I thought we were actually fighting about something, right? And I think Alex does see it a little bit more as a performance than anything, which is kind of, I don't know. I think it's kind of fucked up, because like there's a lot of people who take what he says seriously, right?
Yeah, but to a degree, I don't know, I don't know. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a little performative. Like, for that commercial right there, that's a good time to be performative if you're doing an ad. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
That's a great time. And maybe that's what that was. Like, that was him being like just. But like he's lost a lot of weight lately, and he looks a little bit more built. He's starting to look just like a crazy Joe Rogan. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what he's starting to look like a little bit.
Yeah.
People are saying he's on Ozempic or something lately. I don't know.
He does look a little bit like he's on Ozempic.
Yeah, he's lost quite a bit of weight. But let's watch that. Let's play that Maxime Bernier clip.
Start the actual poll.
Yeah. So again, folks, if the globalists can do something successful there, they can then do it here. So this is really a global threat we face. So we have to understand this is in our backyard, and I already care about Canadians anyways, but for some people, they say, I don't care about the stock market. Well, the stock market cares about you. If it plunges, we're screwed. So people need to understand the world's very small and Canada really matters. But in general, why do you think, or maybe disagree, but why is Canada so targeted by the globalists?
Because actually, we have Carney, Trudeau, and Poilievre. They're listening to advice coming from globalist leaders, and that's why for them they're socialists. They like that philosophy. They think that they know better than Canadians. These people over there at that meeting, Canada is with you. That's good. The agenda is good. We are the only party that won't follow the UN agenda, but the conservative, the liberal. So when you ask,
to me, I don't know why Maxime Bernier comes off as like a Quebec Hitler. Is that just me a little bit? Like he comes off as a complete nut job. Like I can't stand Bernier. I can't stand him. Like, he doesn't even live in this country half the time, acts like he wants to make it better when he goes and lives in Florida half the year. It's just like, what are you doing? Like what? Like,
it
how
is
are
kind
you
of funny.
somehow pro-Canadian? Like, he boils my blood a little bit, honestly. Like, it is wild to me that this guy has any support at all. Like, it is just wild.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think that it matches to me the same thing as the Jagmeet Singh support. Like, it just kind of says that you're not really thinking about things pragmatically. You're thinking about things purely ideologically. Everything is based on.
Isn't democracy pandering to the majority? Like, isn't that what it's supposed to be? Pandering to the majority?
Yeah, I think.
I mean,
there's
democracy,
instances,
Maxime.
There's times where you do need to protect a minority from the majority. There is instances where you have to do that. But generally speaking, yeah, if the majority of the country wants to move in a certain direction, you should push in that direction. You shouldn't just assume. He's literally implying that we know better than the Canadian public, and that it's our job to inform the Canadian public what they should think and what they should support. And the problem here is that they believe things that are different than us, and we need to change their minds so that they support us instead of the people who are pandering to the things that they actually support. And it's just, I don't know. It's a really, really silly argument, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think it's beyond silly. It is absolute bananas. And I think that people really need to do some homework on this guy before they go sign it. Like, there's actually people, and I've seen it, in just normal spaces, you talk about the PPC, like that they're actually a party for the Canadian people. Like, we're the only one who won't follow the UN agenda. It's just like, what are you talking about? Like, Pierre has literally said he was going to ban people from working with the World Economic Forum. Like, what are you talking about? Like, even if, I think Pierre, arguably, people might say he pandered to the far right for a little too long. You know what I mean? And now, because it's gotten serious, closer to an election and issues where it seems like people are really, the far right kind of branches off from the conservatives, stuff like Ukraine, and stuff like, when it comes to deporting the Khalistanis, it's like, what are you talking about? Most of them are Canadian citizens. Like, people don't even realize that.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? Is that when you pander to a minority of the people supporting you, sometimes there is overlap there, right? Like, I think a majority of conservatives are concerned about immigration, levels of immigration. That's a fair criticism, right? But taking it to the extent that people who like Bernier want to take it is past the point that most people want to take it, right? And it's the same sense that, like, things that Jagmeet Singh talks about, right? Like, of course, we don't want to have a world where workers are being abused by all the millionaires and the billionaires, right? But, like, we're not going to let that single thing dictate all of our policy, and have that be the entire point of our platform, is to pander to this ridiculous thing. Like, I can't remember. It must be in the next clip, because in the next clip he kind of talks a little bit about. This was actually earlier on. The clips were backwards, but this one, I think he goes in a little bit about Poilievre supporting, like, gender ideology and stuff. And it's just so annoying to hear somebody who's saying, like, his argument is that Poilievre is way too focused on economic problems and production issues, and he needs to focus more on the culture stuff so we can charge forward with culture war issues like trans stuff and pride flags at schools and stuff. Like, it's like, I don't know about everybody else, but me personally, I just am so sick of talking about culture issues. Can we just not worry about this right now? We have bigger issues than this. The trans people are such a small part of the country. Like, I am pro protections for a lot of these people, and I'm just tired of hearing about it. Like, I just think that, like, offer them the protections, but why is this, like, the entire center of all conservative and liberal thought? Is everything is about, like, how many genders are there, and like, you guys don't even know what a woman is. And it's like, dude, like, can we just talk about something else, please? Like, just don't.
Yeah.
Why does it always have to be? And I feel like it's the Maxime Berniers and the Alex Joneses and those types of people are the people who are pushing that into the arena over and over and over and over again, right? Like, they act like it's the left is pushing this into everybody's minds and at the front of all the conversations, but I don't think that's true anymore. Like, Kamala didn't even talk about trans stuff even once her whole campaign. That was an entirely Trump thing this time. They supported it throughout their tenure in office. Like there's times, but it wasn't like a central platform of hers at all. Like protections for gay people or transing the kids, as they say.
Anyways, so People's Party of Canada is apparently paying leader Maxime Bernier $104,000 salary right now, and that was in 2020. So he's actually collecting a six-figure salary.
No way, dude.
For a basically non-party status party. Like they don't have any seats. You know
he doesn't even have a seat in parliament.
Exactly. And he's collecting above
crazy,
six figures.
Dude.
That's what I mean. Is he to me is just a con artist. I don't think he actually has any interest in helping the Canadian people whatsoever. And I think he should just go to America and stay there if that's what you want. Like I don't want to hear. Like it's just this drives me nuts. And the fact that he's projected to possibly win some seats this election blows my mind. And it's because Pierre taking a firm stance on issues that the far right seems to be just deluded on. And this is what I don't get. Like, what is the problem with supporting Ukraine? Like, this is
it's pathetic. It's cowardly.
Well,
it's
Maxime
gross.
Bernier is the only real pro-Trump
and Maxime
candidate. He's the only actual pro-Trump candidate right now.
He defends him a whole bunch in this too. It's honestly, he starts going off about the dairy tariffs. Do you know the story behind that? The dairy?
Yes and no, because also he's right about that.
It's certainly 300% tariff and we don't have one on the milk and eggs. That's wrong. He's right about that. I'm just saying.
The dairy tariffs don't kick in until you hit some ridiculous cap.
Dude, a lot of these tariffs have also been negotiated over time by different parties at different and carefully built piece by piece.
But this is important.
You know what I mean? Like the whole trade balance, right?
The tariffs don't kick in until you hit a certain threshold, and America has never paid those dairy tariffs because they don't meet that threshold for dairy trade. They don't trade enough for it to ever be a requirement. They're far below it. They could trade more and not pay the tariffs. It's ridiculous. It's only in the contract so we don't have our market being flooded with like cheaper American products all of a sudden, and they completely replace our dairy market and destabilize our economy, right? That's the reason they put those protections in there, is that there has to be some part of the market reserved for local farmers, which I think is totally fair. You're allowed to have some part of your market. You want to be able to reserve the ability to produce your own food in case there's ever, an issue like this, like a trade war out of nowhere, some lunatic moves in next door and just decides going to start messing with everybody's economies and trade routes.
Yeah, and if America got it,
while he also gets a better deal for America, or am I wrong that he is energizing the bad guys?
Right now, what he's doing, it's helping a little bit the liberals.
Okay.
You're right about that. But also, if you have the conservative in power, they have the same policy.
Yeah, so Poilievre has good rhetoric, but I've heard from a lot of Canadians when I've said he looks good that he's not.
He has good rhetorics. He's doing politics with empty slogans, but his platform on the main issues, climate change, is like the liberals about that. He's okay with the Paris Accord. I'm the only leader who's ready to get rid of the Paris Accord like Trump.
Well, that's what Canadians tell me, and I'm glad we got you on. They always tell me, no. They always say, this is the guy right here, not Poilievre.
But Poilievre is a conservative in name only. Like Reno here in the state, like the former Republican Party before Trump. Poilievre is like that. He cannot speak about the real issues for our party. He doesn't want, because also in Canada, as you may know, Alex,
so some things I want to say here. So first off, I cannot stand this guy. I just can't tell you that enough. He's just lying like so many times there. He lied. Mm-hmm. So Poilievre has taken actually a pretty firm stance on CB24, the whole two genders clip. What was that then? The whole, he said we need to get men out of women's spaces. He said that. You know what I mean? Like he what are you talking about, Maxime? And then everything else too he was talking about there, like honestly, like this guy's a con artist. Like he is lying to everybody. And honestly, I don't know many Canadians that take InfoWars seriously, so I don't think he's got that big of a reach anyways. I think the biggest one was the Patrick Bet-David one, but I think, does anyone actually ever listen to that guy's podcast? Like, he's unhinged. Like, Patrick Bet-David is so far out there. Like, he's honestly in a
he's like buddies with Andrew Tate.
Because Alex Jones, honestly, there's like an air of non-seriousness, even though it's serious. It is performative, And I feel like most people understand it's performative to a degree. I hope so, anyways, that it's performative to a degree.
Well,
but stuff I've seen on InfoWars before is stuff like, you know, them talking about how 5G makes it easier for demons to possess you. You know what I mean? Like, they're nuts on there. Like, he'll put anybody on there. So for Maxime Bernier to go on that kind of, like, I don't even know, like what? Like, it's just. Yeah, well, that's the other conflict of interest that's coming out with Elon Musk, right? About him having, you know, being at a war defense meeting or something about defensive strategies in case of it was like a war scenario meeting or some sort. Like, think like war games, I guess. And they were coming to talk about this with generals and everything. But people didn't want, the military didn't want Elon Musk in the room because apparently he's got tons of business holdings in China. And the meeting was specifically about if China invaded. So it was like, you know, why was, you know what I mean? Like, he should have to relinquish those business holdings, I think, or pull out of the Chinese market. If, you know, China is labeled as an aggressive country and an aggressor, you're now in government. You know what I mean? Like, that's what he's done, right? He can't have his cake and eat it too. So this is going to, and that's the thing is, like, everyone can say Elon Musk is guilty or whatever, but the thing he's the most guilty
so far beyond that
is a massive amounts of conflicts of interest, right? That's what I was, and I had a conversation with someone about this yesterday. And, like, you know, it doesn't matter if he's a Nazi or not. What matters is he has a crazy amount of conflicts of interest. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he is, like, you know, focus on the actual facts of it, not just everyone's opinion built up on top of it, right? And that's the thing, that calling him a Nazi, I think, is an opinion, not a fact. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is focus to the facts here. And the facts are he has tons of conflicts of interest, and he probably should not be in the position he's in government if he's going to have all his private business holdings.
Well, we're far beyond that, right? Because Trump's got his own, you know, meme cryptocurrency that literally any country can dump money into with zero record of that happening. Anybody and they can show him that they bought it, but nobody else can see it. So we're way beyond the part where we're caring about conflicts of interest. Nobody cares. Zero accountability. There is no recourse to get Elon Musk in trouble for this. There's no, because I mean, the president's doing it, right? And who's ultimately responsible to
and that's the
carry out justice is the executive branch of the government, right? So they're not going to punish themselves. They can do whatever they want.
Well, and Elon Musk, I watched a bit of the Joe Rogan episode recently after he became part of DOGE and everything. And I just think it was interesting because I don't think he looks at himself as like a bad guy. I think he looks at himself as like the smartest guy in the room, and he knows what's best for everybody. And I think it's not very pro, you know, I guess it is democratic because, you know, people elected Trump, right? However, the thing about it is,
no, they didn't elect Elon Musk. He's not supposed to be able to tear down departments of government.
Yeah, but he was appointed.
Yes, but you're missing.
They told the voters ahead of time this was going to happen. They told them what they were going to do.
They can't tell. There are people who are dying because they have rescinded branches of the government that they weren't authorized to shut down. They took away American intelligence from Ukraine. That caused deaths 100%. You know, they're doing things unilaterally that need to be determined by Congress, which is how all of that stuff's supposed to be decided, because that's how the will of the people is enacted through. It's like, that's how they're supposed to have their voice heard. The president's not the unitary voice of the people. It's not just like you get A or B and whatever wins gets to be a king dictator who gets to do whatever they want.
No, right? I get what you're saying.
Just because you appoint somebody doesn't mean they're allowed to tear apart a department. They're not allowed to. Well, no, I'm just saying that because I hear this argument a lot, which is that because Trump got the will of the people and he appointed Elon should be able to be involved in Doge and be able to defund parts of the government, but that's not how it works.
You shouldn't be able to do that with zero oversight. I get that. I'm agreeing with you.
No, you're not allowed to do it at all. He can be an advisor, but he is not allowed to shut down government at all.
He just advised.
He has no authority to do that.
How did he shut it down personally?
He's the one sending out emails, firing government employees.
Okay.
Yeah, it's totally out of control. Like, it's so far past, it's so outside of what's. Anyways, we can move on to the other topic. I don't even know how we got on.
I hear way different sides of the story all the time. Like, I just hear a completely different side, and I'm like, okay, like, and from Americans who don't seem to who like what he's doing apparently. and like they're all for
yeah,
it. Right
you
now.
should just they need to understand that just because you like it doesn't mean that that's what's legally allowed to happen. Because, you know, maybe if Joe Biden was doing what Trump was doing, he could just open up the Department of Transing Kids and start transing kids. He'd be like, oh, well, I won the mandate.
He
I
also
can do
said
whatever I
apparently
want.
those people up in the space station, I don't know if you know why they're up there, but he went on Joe Rogan and told everybody it was the Biden.
They already had a
fault.
plan. No, Elon Musk is retarded. The astronauts at that space station disputed it. And they were tweeting at Elon Musk, and Elon Musk was calling them liars.
Really? That was after the Joe
Yeah,
Rogan
I don't
episode?
know. The Elon Musk he was totally lying. Elon spat ensues over claims that politics delayed a flight to Earth. Elon Musk has made unfounded claims that 2 NASA astronauts were left on the space station for political reasons after their Boeing spacecraft ran into problems. Elon Musk lashed out at several astronauts online after coming under fire for suggesting that 2 NASA astronauts were left on the International Space Station for political reasons. The public spat on X began Thursday between Musk and European astronaut Andreas Mogensen, then continued Friday as others weighed in. The argument was in response to remarks Musk made during a pre-taped joint interview with President Donald Trump that aired Tuesday on Fox News. The pair was
left in space.
They've been there. They were supposed to be there 8 days. They're there almost 300.
Biden.
They were yes, they were left up there for political reasons, which is not good.
The pair was asked about NASA astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, who have been on the space station for the past 8 months after their Boeing spacecraft ran into problems on its first crewed test flight. They were left up there for political reasons, Musk said.
It ended up being like this political football and sort of hotly contested topic. We offered to bring them back early. This offer was rejected by the Biden administration.
Why?
For political reasons.
That's
insinuating that the Biden administration chose to keep the astronauts in space for longer than necessary. Mogensen, who in 2015 became the first Danish citizen to fly in space, took aim at Musk's unsupported claim, posting, "What a lie," and from someone who complains about a lack of honesty from mainstream media. Things quickly turned ugly, with Musk calling Mogensen an idiot and using a derogatory term, which is retarded. SpaceX could have brought them back several months ago, Musk wrote. I offered this directly to the Biden administration and they refused. Return was pushed back for political reasons, idiot. Mogensen, who flew himself to and from space station aboard SpaceX rocket and capsule, responded 13 minutes later, saying he has long admired what Musk had accomplished. This is absolutely, Elon was lying. The astronauts just told him he was lying, and he called them retarded. When you finally, one of the,
like, what was the actual thing that happened?
They were on there. They were a part of the operation. In response, Musk doubled down on his insult to Mogensen and took a jab at Kelly's twin brother, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. He's an idiot who publicly attacked me despite having no idea what actually happened, Musk said on X. By the way, your brother claims to be independent, but he's just a Dem donor shill. Mark Kelly later responded to the tech billionaire, saying Friday, "Hey, Elon Musk, when you finally get the nerve to climb into a rocket ship, come talk to the three of us." Retired Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield, who commanded the space station in 2013, also weighed in on the dispute, reposting comments he first made on X on February 14th. Suni and Butch have never been stranded in space, Hadfield wrote. They're prepared and committed to the mission, like all professional astronauts. Suni's space station commander, they're doing spacewalks, working hard on behalf of NASA and all partners, having the time of their lives. The spat comes as Musk's role as one of Trump's top political advisors, blah, blah, blah. Musk has used Wilmore and Williams' situation. We will do so. Yeah, he's just trying to make an issue out of nothing. He was bothered because I think he offered Biden to let him do it. And he said no, because they already had it covered. They already had a plan to get them home. And he just was insulted that they didn't want him to be a part of it and tried to make it about himself. The space agency under the
next we're going to talk about Jasmine Mooney, Canadian detained by ICE trying to come through the southern border in the U.S. So we got a clip here, her explaining her story. We'll play that for you, a little brief part of it, and then we'll talk about it after.
Jasmine Mooney is a Canadian citizen who had a work visa, no criminal record, and had been traveling back and forth between Canada and California without any complications until she says she was suddenly detained without explanation at the San Diego border when she tried to reapply for a new visa. For information, how long will I be here? I don't know your case, the man said. Could be days, could be weeks. But I'm telling you right now, you need to mentally prepare yourself for months.
None of us had a criminal record. Everyone's story was different, a lot of the same. A lot of women, I believe, should not be in there. I was transferred twice in 2 weeks, which is an awful experience. There were girls in there who had been transferred 8 times in a couple weeks.
Do you believe that you were kept in there because you were a moneymaker?
Yes, I do.
So in that clip, yeah, like it's pretty crazy. The whole part where she's, talking about, it just felt like they're in there for profit, and how they were told, like, it could be days, it could be weeks, but prepare yourself for months to be in there. That's pretty crazy. That is pretty wild that they're just like so brazen about it, I guess. Like the fact she ended up in there is another thing, but the way that the system is, I think, should be like the huge focus here, because this is like literally, it's just like a for-profit system, it sounds like.
Well, you got to think about the fact that if they were trying to save money, the whole concept of a lot of the stuff happening right now is that they're supposed to be eliminating waste. How wasteful is it that they detained a Canadian, held her for over almost 2 weeks, transferred her to multiple different prisons? Why? For what? How is that a good use of resources?
Well, that's where,
and you think about exactly what she said. Can you imagine if you're just like a regular, a green card holder or something like that? Like that guy who's being booted, the Mahmoud, I don't know what his name is, the guy for protesting for Hamas too. It's the same thing, right? It's stuff where they're just not getting their due process. No one even knows. These people aren't even being charged with crimes. They're not being put in front of a court or a judge or anybody, right? There's no due process. They're just doing whatever they want. Consequences be damned, right? It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, and I don't even know what their motivations are at anymore. And yeah, Elon Musk, recently have lied about the whole, being called out being a liar by an astronaut up in the space station based on that whole guy who got stuck up in the space station. And there's been
a few things like that. He is a liar. I mean, even the stupid Path of Exile thing. What kind of person is the richest man in the world and feels like they need to lie about being good at a video game? Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like that's like
I don't know why
grade school level.
It's weird
stuff, right?
The argument I hear for that is that he was I don't know. It's just like excuse making. In the end of the day, I feel like it's the same argument people get for Trump. It's like this, and people do it for anyone that they really admire, right? It's not just people doing it for Trump, not people just doing it for him. People are doing it for Trudeau. People are going to do it for whoever they admire, right? Like and I think that's kind of where human nature is at. And because we're in this age of information, there's just so much information out there. It is becoming increasingly more difficult to tell what is true and not true, right? And it doesn't matter if you're like someone who's going to be like, oh, I don't believe in misinformation. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if you believe in the stuff or not. It's still there, right? Because like at the end of the day, there's a difference between people like deliberately just trying to like cause chaos and people actually trying to share their opinions, right? Like there's a difference between those two, right? But at the end of the day, I just think like the space, like the whole world we're in right now, this America that's emerging, where a Canadian can be detained in America, or trying to travel through America with a Canadian passport, is wild to me. Like, why was she detained as well? Like, that's something we should be looking into. And having like I have friends who are talking about oh, you shouldn't go down there right now. Then there's also friends who I have who say it's no problem at all if you're just going down there, because if you fly down and you come back up, you're dealing with Canadians, right? So on your way back in, right? So it's a lot easier. So they're not as worried about getting stuck there or something. But like, I think this whole situation must have been a series of flukes, but it highlights what the system could be becoming, right? And I think that's I don't know, to me, I'm not really all for-profit detention centers in prisons.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of this just reminds me of, in Jurassic Park, the Velociraptors, how they jump against the electric fence, testing for weak spots to see where they can get through. That's what this feels like. This feels like a lot of just pushing the envelope as far as possible to see where the limits are, to see what you can get away with before people actually start to push back. Well, and I think that what we're learning is you can get away with quite a lot before people start to push back, right?
I don't think that's entirely true, because look at the 51st state rhetoric. Trump's popularity plummeted in Canada. Like you had actually almost
yeah,
at one
in
point,
Canada,
a huge portion of Canadians supported who admired Trump and supported his decisions and stuff. And now that number, like I know that they've done a recent poll, and it was just like they estimate like less than 10% of Canadians even respect him anymore, right? They're all offended by what he's.
Well, it's a nosedive too, right? Because if you look at the like there was prior to that, there was like 40% or something of at least conservatives. I think were like in favor.
Not even just conservatives. It was just generally like there's a lot of people like I have family like on my wife's side that are like 80 and they like Trump, right? Until recently. Now they don't like him anymore. You know what I mean? So like this is how things change, right? And like if you lose that person who is not, you know, someone who's listening to InfoWars and gonna go vote for Maxime Bernier, like it's just you know it's not that person, right? So I just think it's we're kind of in this crazy battle in Canada where it's, I think a battle for the center, right? It's that's what this is, and this whole election is who can get the center on their side, who can be the most centered, I think, and that's what's becoming. And ironically, what that means is their platforms are getting more and more similar. You know what I mean? When it comes to Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre, right? And
which is nice.
I think what's happened in the States has definitely shaken up Canada. But to me, as a conservative, I don't think we should be afraid to say Trump is nuts. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be a Republican to be a conservative in Canada. And I think people need to understand that because it seems to be some serious tribalism that I didn't really realize was there until we started this channel. And seeing it come into, maybe it's just online spaces where it exists, and maybe maybe it's not entirely all an accurate representation of where the public's at. But I think maybe most rational people just aren't going to the internet for the political views these days, or at least YouTube in Canada.
And I mean, I've heard things like that the media will adapt to the times, right? People will learn how to discern what's more trustworthy than other things. But right now, you have a lot of people, and I mean, we've all seen it. We all knew people that, you know, previously didn't use the internet that much. And then COVID happened and they were inside and they were on their smartphones a lot more than usual. And, you know, their entire media landscape changed. And, you know, it's important to remember that a lot of your view of the world is shaped by the media you consume, right? We don't personally know, like I would say that 99% of the people, probably more, that are going to watch this video have never been to Ukraine. They've never been to Israel. They've never been to any of these places that they have really strong opinions about, right? And you have to remember that you have to try and like consume a media that is giving you a more encompassed and nuanced view on what something is. If somebody's coming to you as an American and telling you exactly what's happening on the other side of the world, you should be a little bit skeptical about what they're saying, right? And on either side, right? Anytime somebody gives you an all-encompassing or a very simplified view of something, you should be conscious of what they are kind of presenting to you as truth. Because if you don't know a lot about the topic, then it's easy for somebody to kind of pretend that they do and you not be able to know, you won't notice it, right? And something I also wanted to touch on too, because you were talking about people battling for the center. A thing that's kind of freaky, I think, about, you know, a lot of this Trump stuff happening is that the center moves when people shift too far in one direction, right? Because now if somebody came along, if let's say a Ron DeSantis shows up and he says, you know, I'm for everything that Trump's doing except for the 51st state stuff. Now he looks centered because he's just removed that one thing, right? Now he's closer to the center than Trump was. Whereas, you know, 10, 15 years ago, he would have been a radical like lunatic, right? Like for him to go that far all at once. But because we've kind of been this frog in a boiling water thing where it's things have just slowly gotten a little bit crazier and a little bit crazier. And it's like, is Trump serious about the 51st state stuff? I don't think anybody knows. I don't even know if Trump knows. You know, like that's the reality of the situation. And it's I don't know, it's just a wacky world, right? It's just a wacky place we're in. That's like a serious, that's the actual leader of the free world right now is this raving madman, you know?
Yeah, well, it's good we end things on a positive note here, I guess. But you know, it's just with it all, we'll see how the future unfolds, and let's not, you know, let's hold on to our hats here. And you know, in terms of Canada, in this upcoming election, we'll see who takes the reins here and steers us in the direction of. Is Mark Carney going to steer us towards being more friendly with Europe? Is Poilievre going to try and steer us being, go kiss the ring of Trump? Like, I don't think, I can't see Poilievre doing that. And I don't know what's going to happen, because it seems like both these guys have taken a firm stance against Trump. And it seems like we don't know what really is going on in Trump's mind. And like you said, I don't think anyone does. Trump might not even know. But anyways.
Well, I've got a question there. What do you think that Poilievre should do in this situation? Because he arguably can't really turn south. So who should he turn to for allies?
Well, at the end of the day,
Poilievre had gotten into power.
Into the same. The thing is, Poilievre might not have done much stuff much differently than Mark Carney. Watch. We'll see who he goes and sees first, right? We'll see. Is he going to go see the king first, or is he going to go see Trump first, right? After he wins, if he wins, right? And I think that he has a serious shot here. Mark Carney is untested and inexperienced at being a politician. So we'll see how he handles himself in debates. We'll see how he handles himself being in real situations. But anyways, we're expecting I think the election to actually take place I think it's on April 28th or May 5th. But yeah, we will see what happens there. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. This has been the Grounded TV Podcast 2.0. And yeah, I think that's everything we got for you today, guys.
Oh, just gonna say, hey, well, thanks for watching the Grounded TV Podcast. We're doing something new here. If we said anything that made you upset, if we said anything that you were happy to hear us say, let us know in the comments. You got something you want to add to the conversation, let us know in the comments, please. Share in the conversation. The whole point of this, we usually live stream, so we're having a constant chat there, but this is something a little bit different. So we're relying on you guys. You got something to say, let us know, please. We want to hear from you. We still do the
live streams Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at about 10 a.m. So PST. So yeah, tune into that if you want to come see me react to some real-time live Canadian politics.